Okay, hi again YouTube, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to talk about how to get into ketosis. Now, as a full-time personal trainer, I would say the majority of my clients that come to me are already naturally endomorphs. If you don't know what an endomorph is, have a look at my previous vlog number 2 about counting macros and calories, and I've done a little diagram on there that will show you what an endomorph is. So with endomorphs, I find that the best diet for those people are keto diets. What is a keto diet? So basically, the body runs off energy. There are 2 types of energy in forms of macronutrients, one being carbohydrates and one being fats. What we're focusing on here today is using fat as a primary energy source. Now, if you can successfully convert your body to using fat as energy and not carbs, once the body uses fat as a primary energy source, once it's used the fat that you've eaten in that day, it will then use the fat in your body to convert into energy, which will then lead to fat burning. If you're feeding your body carbohydrates and fat at the same time, it's so much easier for your body to burn carbohydrates as energy. So if we can completely eliminate carbohydrates from the body, allow the body to understand that fat is now the energy source, we can then switch into ketosis. Now, ketosis isn't a made-up word. It's an actual state, a physical state that the body can be in. The human physiology was designed to run on ketones. It's only through poor education and lack of diet and nutritional advice that we choose carbs as our natural or primary energy source. We then become addicted to carbs, and then we end up eating 90% processed foods. Now, the fats and proteins in our diet usually come from a natural source, whereas if you eat carbohydrates, the majority of carbohydrates come from hybrid foods or unnatural sources. How long does it take to get into ketosis? Well, it depends solely on how strict and how disciplined you are with your diet. But let's say you're going into ketosis and you're putting 100% effort into it. It can take anything from 7 days to 3 weeks to go into optimal ketosis. So it isn't a quick fix. You really need some dedication. You need to put the time in, and you need to have it straight in your head that this is what you want to do. So how do we start? So we start here in the neocortex, okay? You need to get it in your head that this is what you want to do. Now, an easier way, and I would say a better way to get into ketosis, is to drop into ketosis or into the keto diet slowly. Now, how do we do this? Okay, let's say your diet comprises of 40 to 50% carbs. We can slowly drop that percentage of carbs and slowly increase the percentage of fats. This way you won't get any sudden blood sugar drops, and also if you suddenly increase your fats high, bring your carbs low, you'll probably struggle to eat that many fats in the day. So the next part of ketosis is changing your shopping list, okay? Like I just said, you need to slowly drop your carbs and up your fats. So when you go shopping, you need to start aiming towards getting higher fatty foods and lower carb foods. Have a look at fatty meat, ribeye steaks, bacon, the whole egg, including the yellow, and salmon. These are great sources of protein that are high fats. So we'll have a quick look at the macro ratio breakdown. Now, if you watched my video before about breaking macronutrients down, that was just a basic outline, a basic guideline to show you rough percentages of what you should be eating depending on your somatotype. Now, no matter what somatotype you are, this macro breakdown will stay the same for everybody. So your calories need to come mainly from fats at 75%. Next is your protein at 20% of your total calories per day, and then 5% carbs. Now, this macro ratio breakdown is for optimal ketosis, okay? If you're gonna go full on, this is exactly what you wanna be aiming for. If you're a bodybuilder and you're worried about dropping your protein too low, go for this ratio breakdown, the 65% fat, 30% protein and 5% carbs still. Now, there's a reason why we don't put the protein too high. The body has an ability to break protein down if there's an excessive consumption into glucose. This is called gluconeogenesis. So if you eat too much protein, basically you'll be eating too many carbs, as the protein gets converted into a carbohydrate, thus upping your carbs. As I said before, we need to keep the carbs low. If we keep the carbs low, we keep the insulin low. If we keep the insulin low, it allows the body to produce more ketones. The more ketones in our diet, the higher level of ketosis that we're in. The higher the level of ketosis, the more body fat we burn. Okay, so let's go into some ideas of things that we can eat. I'm sure you're asking yourself that question and you're thinking, what can I eat? We'll talk about protein first. These are some ideas. Okay, so protein wise, and we're talking meats here, steak, any sort of fatty piece of steak. So for example, if I was to eat a piece of steak, I would eat a ribeye steak. It's got plenty of fat marble running through the body, so it's a perfect idea. Bacon is great because it's just pure protein and fat. The whole egg, don't worry about the cholesterol in the middle of the egg. Any sort of fatty fish, salmon or mackerel are great ideas. Okay, and on to dairy. Any sort of white cheese, okay? If you're going into keto diet, most people really want to say quite natural, okay? The more natural, the more organic, the better quality the food, the better quality results. So white cheese is the best cheese. Why white? Because cheese is naturally white. The reason why it becomes orange and yellow is because of the food colorings that get put into it. So we've gone with feta cheese, Swiss cheese, Parmesan cheese is okay. We've gone for full fat cream and butter. These are just some ideas of sources of protein you can get. Okay, so now down to the carbs. Now carbs only make up 5% of your daily calories when you're in ketosis, and they really need to come from leafy green cruciferous veg. So at the top we've got tomatoes, we've got kale. Now the tomatoes are the small cherry tomatoes. We've got kale, asparagus. The only fruits that you'll be having on a keto diet are lemon, limes, and avocados. Yes, avocados are a fruit. Green beans, sprouts and Swiss chard, olives and spinach. They are just some ideas of things you should be having. So you should aim to have a protein with high fat and a serving of leafy green vegetables. Oils you should be using. Now I'm going organic and I'm thinking alkaline diet here. The only two natural oils that I would recommend myself are coconut oil and olive oil. Now as your carbohydrates have got to stay super low, using the green leafy veg and the small amounts of fruit as carb sources, you should keep your carb sources, if you're a woman, under 20 grams of carbs per day, and if you're a male, under 30 grams of carbs per day. So if you're thinking, what meals can I have? Let's say breakfast, you could have salmon with a poached egg, maybe with a bit of kale. For lunch, you could have a steak with a salad and maybe a bit of avocado. So for an evening meal, you can make your own homemade burgers using the eggs, obviously spices and steak mince. Throw in some leafy veg with that and some grilled tomatoes, bon appetit. Now just get creative with all these types of food. There's so many different recipes out there for people on keto diets. So do your little bit of research, go onto Google, have a look at keto diets, and you'll be very surprised at how many diets and how many recipes are out there. Like I said, it starts with committing from up here, and then you've just got to commit to putting the right thing in here. So let's just run through that really quickly. Eliminate carbs from your diet. Use fats as your main energy source. Eat fats and proteins together with a serving of green leafy veg. Give it time, be disciplined and dedicated to the diet. You will eventually go into ketosis and your body will turn into an efficient fat burning machine. Just remember, every time you eat carbs, you're switching your body out of ketosis, if you ever got there, and you have to start the whole process over again. If you're really serious about losing the weight or becoming healthier, then just learn to stick with the keto diet. Honestly, this is the best diet for losing weight. Probably wondering why I've crossed out nuts on the board. Now, nuts are not good for a keto diet. Yes, they have high fats and they have good fats in them, but they also have a lot of carbohydrates in them, especially when you eat quite a lot of them. So leave nuts out your diet.